Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your mechanical hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Today we will equip our sometimes sentient vocal cords and review the Kickstarter-project-turned-full-action show Mecha-Ude, Mechanical Arms. Since it's also our season premiere, first we of course have to take a quick look at a couple of premieres from Anime Winter Season 2025 in the sneak peek. So strap on your bionic arms, don't get too wrapped up in directing your personal rom-com fantasy, and definitely don't pause the pod, we'll be right back! Alright, yes, here we are in the sneak peek, and as usual we've got a couple of premieres we checked out from Winter Season. I checked out more shows than I expected. When I took a first look at the honor chart listing, I was like, wow, this is slim pickings, but I also forgot about some of the shows that are, well, I guess kind of technically winter shows. And yes, I'm counting BEASTARS into that because it aired like in mid or late December on Netflix, so that's when it dropped. So whatever, it counts. It's a winter show.
Netflix kind of dropped it on us, and I keep forgetting. It's in my queue, and I keep forgetting to start watching it, but considering the season is kind of dire, maybe I'll actually be able to make time for it.
Yes. Well, you have to make time for it, John. I demand it. We will review that show.
Before here comes John's complaint about season names again. It's the first part of the final season, so
yes,
there's still time.
Yes. We'll get to that once we actually talk about or I'll talk about the first episode since you haven't watched it yet. But yes, so that's in here. And of course, a bunch of stuff from that has now aired its first and second episodes or whatever in January. And we picked our usual things, our three categories: the nopes, the maybes, and the keepers. For new first-time listeners, the nopes are the shows we checked out. We said, nope, thank you, that's enough of that, and we're not going to keep watching that. The maybes are shows that hold some potential in our eyes, but we're not quite sure yet if we'll stick with it for reasons. And then, of course, there are the keepers shows that impressed us at least enough to say, yep, gonna stick with those, probably unless they have like the sharpest drop-offs in terms of quality. So, starting as usual with the bad stuff, John, I don't have nopes, you do, so please start us off with those.
Yeah, so shockingly, I have stuff that I kind of watched and just turned around on. This
never
first
happens.
This first show, I turned around halfway through the first episode.
Wow. Okay.
And it's not because I think it's a bad show without potential. It's more because I don't think I should watch it. And that reason is because it's Ameku, MD, Doctor Detective.
I've heard about this, yes. The second medicine Dr. House detective show after the Apothecary's Diaries, or...
Yeah, I don't know anything about the Apothecary Diaries, but I guess it's pretty popular, and I mean, it's got like 3 seasons now?
I think this is the second season I was interested in. I didn't watch the first season. I'm thinking about, since this season might be a slim one, I might actually take a look at the first season and see if it's interesting to me. But yeah, I've heard this. I mean, that is set in a different time period, and the one you took a look at, I think, is more modern, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was getting a Dr. House vibe from it in good and not so good for my own tolerance level ways. Because you get halfway through the first episode and there's a dude whose leg is like chomped off and he's bleeding blue, and I'm just like, oh, I don't think I can do this.
Oh, okay, so it's
I don't, that's what, and I was like, this seems fine. The characters are looking a little off model in a couple of the shots, but you know, that's not it. Production is not perfect on every show. But then I got to that and I was just like, okay, thanks. Thank you for showing me what I needed to see. I will plan to listen to the show's soundtrack because it is done by the jazz band Fox Capture Plan, and they do incredible work. So I will definitely listen to it at least. They've done some like movies and TV shows. In anime, though, I am going to look it up real quick in real time because I don't remember what other anime they have contributed to. But they have been around. Okay, so they did Lupin the Third versus Cat's Eye.
Mm-hmm. I still need to watch that one.
They did a bit of the live action Oshinoko, some of the Rascal Does Not Dream, blah, blah, blah series, and a couple other smaller things too. So, they don't have a big foothold in anime, but they're there. So,
and apparently the soundtrack to this one is really good.
Yes, as soon as it kicked in, I was like, ooh, that's the good stuff. So as soon as that hits like Spotify or YouTube Music or whatever, I'll put it on. Because one of their first albums they ever heard, Butterfly. Listen to that one.
Well, I check it out. Thanks for the recommendation. I'm surprised that the blood was such a big turnoff for you that you immediately noped out of the show. You have watched bloody shows before. I mean, we watched JoJo's.
It was the color that did it.
Okay.
And the man missing a leg.
Okay.
So maybe this show will be good. I don't know, but for my own sake, I had to be like, I don't think I can do this.
Okay, fair enough.
So maybe it won't be as bad as I heard, and I'll go back and check it out another time. But for now, I'll just let it play out and be like, okay, all right. But that's that. My other drop. Do you like light novels with long names?
Not particularly, no. Why would you ask me that, Sean? You know the answer.
Because I've got one here and I've got one in the maybes.
Okay, well.
I left my A-rank party to help my former students reach the dungeon depths.
Oh, no.
You know what, though? Both of the light novels I'm going to talk about are not isekai, so...
Well, then you got me beat, because I have an isekai in my listing. Believe it or not.
Let me tell you something on Live Chart. It's very easy to filter out light novel and isekai, so...
Yeah, I don't do that. I should start doing that, because this... We'll get to it.
Because there was a show this season, I don't think either of us... I'm assuming neither of us checked it out, but it was called something like My Life in Another World as a Middle-Aged Online Shopper or something, and I see that name, and I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, it's the same reaction on my end. Even when I see In Another World, I immediately, nope out. My brain immediately shuts off, and I'm like, scroll past that shit. I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. Ooh, it's gotten so bad.
So this show is about this red mage named Yuke, and he's part of this high-ranking adventuring party called Thunderpike. And, he is the support guy for this party, casting enchantments, and he's got, a few offensive spells. But he's mostly there to, buff his party members and help them out and whatnot. And, that's a pretty crucial role in an adventuring party, wouldn't you say?
Yes, sure.
But his party members are like, oh, well, you keep burning through our resources and you don't actually do anything on the front line. Have you heard of components for spell casting? Mm-hmm. Maybe this isn't Dungeons and Dragons, but So Yuke decides, well, go fudge yourselves. I'm going to leave this top rank party and just go out on my own. And he ends up teaming up with some of his former students who he's taught in the past. And of course, they're all cute girls, and this is a harem show, and he shows how he can beat this dungeon boss using only his buffing and debuffing spells, and it's like, okay, it's very well produced. That's it.
Okay.
And I kind of just walked away from it after that. I was like, I don't dislike this, but it's also a nothing show.
Yeah. Sometimes if nothing is in there that grabs you in any way whatsoever, even if it looks good and stuff, you're just bored and why would I even bother with? I already can see where this is going, and I don't like wasting my time on this.
Also, there's a component of this world where adventurers can use magical artifacts to live stream their dungeon runs to the rest of the world.
What?
So sure, I guess.
I mean, sorry about that now. So it makes this show infinitely more interesting because this could turn into a satire on, I don't know, Twitch streaming or something.
I guess maybe that's what they're trying to go for in part, but it's still sort of like, I don't know how well that premise holds up.
Well, you will not find out. Me neither.
Probably not. That's it for the nopes.
All right. Then we move on to the maybes, and I'm going to start off those with... Are you ready for some good old 90s styled edgelord fantasy revenge shit?
Oh, I bet I know what show you're going to talk about.
Grammatically wrong German title included?
Yeah, let's go.
So let's talk about Übel Blatt. 14 heroes were given holy spears to stop an invading force. 3 perished, 4 betrayed the mission and were killed. 7 heroes returned and thus began the Age of Glory. But history is written by the victors, so even though 7 heroes returned from that mission, they might not actually be the heroes of this story. So yeah, this is a satellite show. It's based on a long-running manga. I don't know how long-running. I don't know if it started in the 90s, but man, does it sure feel like it did.
It's so edgy and dark, and it's like we kind of have circled back around. It started in 2004 and ran until 2019. Jesus.
Okay. Well, it's not that far removed from the 90s, I get, so it still carried over some of that vibe from
I'm sorry. There's also a second manga that started last year.
Oh, so it's popular enough, I guess. But yeah.
Übel Blatt 2, The Knights of the Deceased King.
Okay. Well, let's see how long we stick with that first show. I mean, is that also part of one of your maybes? Judging from your reaction? Okay, there you go. So,
like I said, I'm down to check out most things satellite. I think they had another show this season, but I just sort of was like, eh.
That's also why I checked it out. Like, the summary didn't really grab me that much, but it's like, oh, it's a satellite show. I'll check it out. And from, immediately the first couple of seconds of the show, the OP, and then what happens after after it gets running, you immediately get the tone of this, like, stowaways immediately being executed in the first couple of minutes. And then we got corrupt monks, lots of blood, girls with very revealing clothing, a kid who seems to have some mysterious beef with the 7 heroes. You don't have to work your brain too hard to guess where that story is going. But yeah, it's 90s as fuck. It's really like, okay, we're gonna follow this kid named Könzel. What a name.
What is that? Please tell me what that translates to, if anything.
Nothing! I don't know what it's supposed to be. That's never I heard a name that I heard in the German language. Maybe it exists somewhere. It sounds super old or something like that. I've never seen this ever. But yes, this is... Immediately in the first couple of minutes, you know what you're getting from this show. That little hairy ball of revenge, and... you have the token little sister damsel character. You have a smuggler with big titties. You have the rogue weed who's throwing like these sharp rings and whatever, and they're trying to get to the city of heroes, each for their own little missions. I mean, I don't know if Althea will tag along. For now, she's only trying to smuggle them on the ship. But I have only watched the first episode, but my suspicion is she will end up on the ship with them and is forced to tag along or whatever. And there are a bunch of adversaries on this, against them. Of course, the main ones being the 7 heroes. And let's just make a wild guess here and say that the 4 people who were killed in the beginning were the actual heroes. I mean, the show kind of gives that away in the beginning anyway. It's not that big of a secret, if at all. And somehow Könzel is related to them. And... he's now gonna kill all the heroes, and that's kind of it. And there will be a lot of blood, a lot of death, and maybe a lot of fun on the way. I don't know. Like, if you embrace stuff like that, you can have fun with it. John, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with pretty much all that. I just have one thing about this show, in that It strikes me as a little derivative, and I say that because
Yes.
have you heard of the video game Romancing Saga 2, wherein the plot is you have to take down the 7 heroes of former glory who are trying to take over the world?
Oh my God.
I mean,
I mean,
there's even a remake called Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven, so eh.
wow. I mean, I've not played any of the Romancing Saga games. I guess I should, maybe. But that is uncanny.
Yeah, when they're starting to talk about the premise, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. This is sounding a little familiar.
mm. Wearing its inspiration on its sleeve. And I assume Romancing Saga 2 came out before the manga started publishing? That is an earlier game, right?
Romancing Saga 2 is a Super Famicom game
Oh,
that
well, there you
released
go.
in 1993.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean,
Which, you know, that's not necessarily a bad
No,
thing, but
and I mean,
I kind of look at it and I'm like, I can see the parallel, my dude.
and I mean, it's some kind of plot device that has been employed. I mean, there's an anime called The Seven Deadly Sins, and they're all former knights and stuff like that, and then actually turn out to be the heroes of the story. This is like the subversion of that, like where you have, or the other subversion of that, where you have the actual, or who are declared to be the heroes probably turn out to be the villains, most definitely. And yeah, so we'll see. It seems all right, but what you said holds true. It seems a bit derivative, and I don't know if it will hold my interest. I feel like in a show like that, the fights have to look really good because that's what you get the most fun out of, like having super gory, violent sword fights and stuff like that. And the violence is definitely there. There's gallons of blood being spilled, but it's also not so far violent to a ludicrous degree. Like there are no flying limbs or heads, like decapitations galore or whatever. It's just a lot of blood, like, you know, people being cut in half, I guess, but also not really, just sliced open a lot. And all right, it's just like, hey, if you go there, maybe go all the way. Like, otherwise, it seems a bit tame. We'll see. And also, satellite shows can look really good. This seems to be one of those. There are some scenes in there that look really cool. Like in the first episode, they have this fight against a big monster, and there's one scene where it's like nice camera swirl around it and everything. And you know, there's just some cool set piece, or you know, the city where they are in the beginning is, in terms of architecture and how it's structured, seems to be pretty cool with its underground caverns and everything. That stuck out. I like that a lot, but I don't know if all of that's will be enough to hold my interest with a story that seems so. I have seen that before. And yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's just I had to laugh at it a lot because it was so fucking 90s and 90s OVA.
It's definitely got a little bit of that ow the edge to it.
Yeah, definitely. So Ow the Blood.
I'm willing to at least give it a try.
Yeah, me too. I'll give it another two episodes probably, and then I'll decide. It's on the lower tier of my babies, but that doesn't have to mean anything. It might yet still fully convince me. But since this is a shared, maybe I think we have an equal amount. I'll just move over to the next one then. And that is ZENSHU for me, which is a mappa show. So, very pretty, very well animated. It's about Natsuko Hirose, who becomes an animator right after graduating high school. She quickly rises up the ranks and soon directs her first magical girl anime, which becomes a huge hit. So, expectations are high for her to deliver another super hit. No pressure. Which was determined to be a rom-com titled Hatsukoi First Love. Problem is, since Natsuko is such a workhorse, she has had no experience with romance whatsoever. So she has no idea how to conceive a story about that. She isn't cutting her hair until the storyboards are done, and that is completely covering her face. It looks ridiculous in the first episode. It's just a hoodie with hair growing out of it, like something from The Ring. And, you know, she can be really menacing in that way, like some people are calling her a gremlin in the first episode. So, I thought this was going to be a workplace comedy because I didn't read all of the synopsis. Color me surprised when I found out while watching the first episode that this is a goddamn isekai. They got me, John.
It is?
It is! Natsuko chokes on her clam lunch and then fantasizes about her favorite fantasy anime, A Tale of Perishing, which she apparently gets transported to. Like, it's probably a dream that will help her overcome her problems with her writing and everything. You know, what happens in this? She meets her heroes basically. Like, this anime is an anime she watched as a kid. There are scenes interspliced where you see her watching it alone in the theater, and she was probably super ensnared by the spell the anime cast on her, and that's why she want to become an animator. But I also suspect she wanted to become an animator to change the story of that anime, because, as she states, the anime has a very depressing ending, which had her super fascinated. Not a lot of people liked it, but she was just obsessed with it. And she doesn't really say why, but my guess is like, because she wanted to change the story, because it's really dark, like all the friends and companions of the main character gets killed, and he slides into depression by the end of the story. And that probably, like, when watching that, she probably was like, I don't want that to happen. I want to change the story. So she became an animator to write her own, make her own stories in animation form and so on. And I assume this is why this is happening, right? And this is trying to get her back to her roots, or her brain is trying to do that for her. And that's why she's dreaming about it while she's lying in a coma from her choking on her lunch or whatever. And also, she is probably gonna fall in love with the main character, or she already did. Like, as a kid, she had a crush on him, and that's why she wanted to change the story. And this fantasy will help her experiencing that anew, or realizing that as an adult woman, and then getting something out of that to, you know, get her story realized, for the romance that she's writing to from a proper experience, quote unquote, perspective in the real world. But yes, she is transported to the fantasy realm that the anime that A Tale of Perishing is playing in, and then meets her heroes who don't know what to make of her. Like I said, everyone is calling her a gremlin. And then there's this cool moment where they have to fight these monsters that attack the city. And in the original story of, you know, the anime that she was watching, that's when everything went to shit, and, you know, everyone got killed except for the main hero and everything. And she decides, I want to change that, and activates some secret magical power, and then just has her magical, I don't know what that is. It's a work tool for animators. I forgot what its name was. And that starts speaking to her, and it's like, it's a magical girl anime, ha ha ha. And she's like, hey, you can change the story, blah blah blah. And she does that, and it's a super cool moment. It's really well animated. It's the first time we see her face, because her hair is covering it up until that moment. And then you have this really flourishly animated, with a lot of color work and everything, moment where her work desk is basically transported to her in this world, and she starts drawing up a new version of the part of this story, and then basically summons a monster that looks like the rough draft storyboard version of kind of the monster from Nazca, Valley of the Wind, from the end, with the huge laser beam and everything. And that monster does basically that to the monsters that are attacking the city. So, and she saves her childhood heroes with that. And that's the end of the first episode. So, surprise isekai.
You dropped a lot on me with that one.
Yes, it's a lot to take in the beginning. It is pretty fun if you are familiar with anime in general, because there are a lot of references dropped in here. Like I said, the Nazca references in there. She, of course, mentions a lot of anime. Or some anime that you might be familiar with, and there was like this poster in her workspace that very heavily reminded me of Guin Saga, just from the glance that I saw, and I was like, wait, is that? Okay, could be that, or a reference to that anyway. So, and like, once she gets transported to the fantasy world, they do a lot of riffing on the stereotypes, on the tropes, on the archetypes and everything. And she's where she immediately is like, wait, have I been transported to another world? That usually only happens to neets, shut-ins, and fucking losers. They're like, well. And so that was nice. I was like, okay, the show knows what it is. I like that. I like when it's self-aware, especially when it comes to that genre, right? When it's like willing to take a fun jabs at that. See Konosuba, right? So it seems to be going that way a bit, at least when it comes to her characters. The other characters are, of course, playing it super straight because it's, the normal world for them and everything. But she's like, the out of touch outsider, and she's now in this world and trying to change the story. I don't know if they will use this setting for the entirety of the show. Like I said, it was a surprise to me that they were going to this at all. Like that is where the story was going. I expected this to be a work comedy, and it kind of is, I guess.
That's what I thought too, from what people were talking about it, and then I just never dug any deeper, and I'm like,
It's it's a weird concept, but it's an interesting concept, especially if she having the perspective of an animator and director who is now trapped in a world all too familiar with, right? So this could be doing something interesting, like we had with Recreators, where you had characters from fictional stories that met their creators and had exchanges with them. And if they do something like that in this, that would also be super interesting. I would be totally down for that. If the story goes that route, and if the character stuff stays interesting, like I would be, if they really do like a personal journey stuff where it's like, hey, I experienced this story as a child, it made me dream, it made me want to write my own stories and so on, but now I'm in a slump and I don't know where to go from here. The pressure is high, the expectations are high, and I've lost the grip on what stories I actually want to tell. And having this personal journey of her well realized could make this a really cool show. Problem is, right now, I don't know if the show will actually be able to do that properly and make it interesting. Like, the ability she has of changing the story by, drawing up in high speed a new version of the story on her work desk, on her magical one, is technically just super strong magic, which we've seen before. So, we have seen a lot of isekai with characters just being overpowered in the respective fantasy world due to their form of profession or skill set. So it all comes down to what the story is gonna put the focus on, how the character development is realized. We basically haven't really seen anything from the heroes yet. Will they have any character at all, or will they just be archetypes? We'll see. For now, I'm just gonna lavish into the production values of MAPPA. It looks really good, like I said. And let's see, I'll give it another two episodes or something and see where I stand. It's neat. Like, I like the main character. I like Natsuko. She's fun and relatable. And this has a lot of promise. I was just completely blindsided by this being an isekai and not but that's on me, because I didn't read the full description on my anime list or whatever, because there it clearly says she's being transported to the fantasy world of her favorite anime. So, there you go. That's on me, I guess. But yeah, doesn't have to mean anything bad. Maybe it gets me to accidentally experience a good isekai again. Let's see. I will report. John, what is your next maybe?
I may be a guild receptionist, but I'll solo any boss to clock out on time.
That sounds like a work comedy.
Yes and no. So the story centers around Alina Clover. And she signed up to be a receptionist for the Adventurers Guild, thinking it would, be a ticket to the good life. She's just there. She gives out, the quests, and she advises adventurers on what do, this, that, the other thing. But she's not an adventurer herself. No. But this dream gig turns into an overtime nightmare whenever adventurers get stuck clearing a dungeon. And to save herself from a mountain of paperwork, Alina takes to beating down monsters herself to solve the problem. And now she just needs to keep her activities a secret. Hey, guess what happens in the first episode?
Everyone gets to know.
At least one person does.
Well, it's a start.
So I like Alina because mood. Absolutely. She's a mood. Like, I just want to, have a nice paying job, have a nice house to live in. But she gets stuck doing all this overtime. I hope it's not unpaid for her sake because, and there's one night where she wants to go out to this festival that's going on, but she works so late because of all the stupid adventurers out there not doing their jobs properly. And she basically wishes upon a star, I wish I had the power to prevent this from happening. And oh boy, does she gain some power. She basically gets this like a giant super-powered warhammer that lets her just strike giant dungeon enemies down like super easily. And she gets to a name for herself as the Executioner.
All right.
So she ends up going out because these adventurers are taking their sweet time one night, and their guild is led by this dude, Jade. Jade has, it's a very dark dungeon, but Jade has sort of like low light vision and very clearly sees who this person is and goes to the Adventurers Guild and is like, hey, who are you? And, the gig may or may not be up. Uh-oh, who knows? I couldn't tell you for sure. And then when this one adventurer who goes blabbing about to one of the other guild receptionists, you have to give me a secret quest. I know you have them. Well, secret quests are just rumor mill and don't actually exist. Or do they? So Alina throws him out of there. He tries to... Another adventuring party captures and brings a golem back to town, which seems ill-advised.
Yeah, what?
Because I guess the plan was, we're going to break it down and use it for materials. Okay, sure. But this dude awakens it, and it starts attacking the town, and it throws out a boulder, and the boulder crushes Alina's house.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and she starts lamenting that, I still had 30 years left to pay on my mortgage. And it's like, ugh!
Wow. House prices are steep in the fantasy world.
Yeah, and she takes out the golem, and one of the guild masters is able to discover who she is, and it's like, we need to have a talk. And Alina's like, oh god, I'm so screwed. So they go to the big guild hall, and he's just like, I just want to fight you, bro. And it's like, huh? What? So this show is a giant goof. That is the end of the second episode. And this show is just a giant goof. And it's like, it's the workplace comedy that's also wanting to have a little bit of the fantasy world power fantasy. That's very wordy. I'm sorry. But I don't dislike it. I don't know. Maybe it's because Alina is cute, and cute girls wielding giant weapons of destruction is neat. I don't know. It's at least silly enough for me to be like, okay, I want to at least see a little bit what this is all about. And they sort of hint in the opening sequence that maybe there's a little bit more to Alina's past. So, I'm at least interested to see how that plays out. I kind of don't like Jade because he's following Alina around like a little puppy, because it's clear, he on the surface, he's like, oh, you should join our guild. But, if you dig like a millimeter beneath the surface, you can tell the motivation is oh, I'm really attracted to this girl. And now, is it because she's cute? Is it because she's really strong? It could be both. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But, I'll see how it plays out. Like I said, I don't dislike this just because it's a little bit different than, the other light novel I talked about a few minutes ago, because this girl has no allegiance to anyone. She just wants to do her thing, which, yeah, okay, I get that. I'm willing to watch at least a couple more episodes and see where it go and what it do. It's a very pretty show. It's animated by Cloverworks, so which
Nice.
Cloverworks, Alina Clover.
Uh,
I don't know if that was a coincidence. Probably. I'm just glad that there are at least some percentage of light novels that aren't also isekais. So some people seem to be getting the picture. Yay! But that's that. What you got next?
my next maybe is sports, and I guess technically Medalist. It's about this girl, Inori, who desperately wants to become a figure skater. But being in 5th grade, so 10 or 11 years old, she is right at the cutoff age for getting into that sport because you have to start very early. And her mom is too worried that she might get injured. So Inori has to kind of sneak into the ice rink by bribing the owner with worms for his pet birds.
What?
It's kind of cute. Yeah, she's digging up worms. And it's like, here, for your birds, please let me ice skate here.
Okay, all right. But you know what? All right.
It works. So one day she runs into Tsukasa, who's like this 26-year-old guy who catches her sneaking into the place without knowing the background and everything. He's trying to hunt her down. She's like, no. She's running away, of course. He got into figure skating pretty late with 14 and is now struggling with his chosen career, even though he made it to the nationals. Like he considers himself not good enough to take the assistant coach job he is offered by his former dancing partner Hitomi. He's like, that was just a fluke that we made it to the nationals. That was all because of you, and I'm not cut out for this and everything. Like he has obviously baggage, right? Because he started so late, and he thinks he wasted time and everything, and he thinks he's not good enough to actually be a teacher. So things come as they must, like one day or the day where he gets this proposal from his former partner, who stumbles into the application center for the club, but Inori and her mom. Apparently because Tsukasa gave Inori said, well, if your mom doesn't want to let you do it, you have to be insistent, otherwise she won't give in and everything. And apparently Inori did that, so her mom took a very special approach to discouraging her daughter from her dream.
Oh, no.
Jesus Christ. So she takes her to all the clubs in town to have the coaches tell her that it's pointless to try because she is already too old, it's too much work, she'll never catch up to the kids who started early, and she will never be good enough.
Jesus Christ.
I get the intent, especially since Inori's older sister got into the sport early with 5 and later hurt herself, so she had to quit, couldn't realize her dream. I get the intent, but way to go, Mom. Enjoying paying for that therapy down the road, like already raking in the shitty anime mom scores for the ranking of 2025. She's gonna be in the top 3. Anyway, Tsukasa ain't let that gonna fly, because he and Inori are kinda in the same situation, only years apart, right? He also apparently didn't have supportive parents, and way too late realized that he actually wanted to do this, or that he had to do this, and, you know, now he's in this situation. So he wants to spare her from that, and he says he's gonna train her. Yeah, and that's what it is. And he realizes, oh my god, this girl's got the chops, because, of course, Inori has not been sitting on her ass and just dreaming the entire time. She's been sneaking into the ice rink pretty much every day, and she's got it. And when he sees this, he's immediately like, holy shit, she's so good. Like, she got the basics down. She listens. She immediately picks up what I'm telling her. This is amazing. And his friend, who is actually a coach at this place, is like, don't get too enthusiastic. Like, you're going overboard, dude. Like, he's so enthusiastic when he sees Inori actually doing her, picking up his first lessons and everything. It's like, this girl, I'm going to take her to the fucking nationals.
Hey,
Yes, it's the absolute perfect antidote to the mom's poison, because Inori is so fucking happy when she has finally someone who believes in her and who lets her, like, do what she wants to do. It's just like, there's this fucking great and heartbreaking moment in this first episode where she just states, like, says to her mom, I know I probably won't be good enough, but I just can't do anything else. I have a bad time at school. I feel out of place. I'm a loner. I don't know what to do. The only thing that makes me feel good and like I'm worth something is ice skating, and you won't let me do that. And she's apologizing for that, which makes it even more heartbreaking, because she's like, I know this is probably going to be a burden on you, and I feel so bad for asking you for this, and so on. I'm like, oh no, please, honey, don't. It's not your fault. You're doing everything right. Please, don't apologize to this horrible woman of a mother. Mother of a woman, I don't know. Huh. And Tsukasa is the perfect, antidote to that. Like I said, his reaction is so heartfelt, and because, he also obviously has a big passion for the sport, and he sees this girl and he's like, no, she's got it, and I can take her places. I see the potential here. And I actually, the moment where he realizes that she is picking up his lessons and she can immediately perform his moves, or very quickly perform the moves he showed her, he's like, oh my God, this is so much fun. I think I like being a coach. I like to teach people that and see them become better. And it's so cozy. Like, it's so heartwarming seeing that. And yeah, that's probably going to be the story. Like, we have them. I mean, the show is called Medalist, so I can assume the training sessions are going to bear some fruits sooner or later. But I assume that at least the first couple of episodes is going to be about, them building a relationship, and some obstacles need to be overcome, because figure skating is a very demanding sport in terms of it being expensive, like paying the training sessions, everything, and having to put so much hours in every day, and the risk of injuring yourself is high, and so on. So there's probably going to be that sprinkled in, but also it's hopefully going to be this healthy teacher-student story about a guy who maybe got in too late but still has a passion for this, and a girl who was barred from it for so long but still has hope that she can be part of doing something she likes, at least for a while, or loves. And yes, so I like what I saw in the first episode. It's really one of those pulls at your heartstrings shows. It's really well animated. I don't know which studio is doing it. I haven't looked it up, but it looks really good. Like, Inori is super cute. Tsukasa is like the goodest guy. Like, he's so nice. And they'll probably make a good pairing. I like Hitomi being just completely flustered when Tsukasa is very loud and very open about being very happy that he can be now a coach and stuff like that, and very enthusiastic and everything. And yeah, so I hope this is just going to be a healthy, heartwarming, uplifting sports underdog story and everything. And he's going to pick up this girl and, I don't know, bring her to winning the nationals, or at least get her some gold medals or whatever, right? And I hope he's not going to steer Inori too far into the other direction of her mom, and is going to try to live his unrealized dreams vicariously through her, kind of making her life shittier in that regard. That could be some of the conflict, that could be some of the drama. I just hope the show knows that could be a problem, and then maybe addresses that. Or maybe we get to see some other characters where that has happened to those, right? Some other girls who maybe like have the opposite of Inori's mom, who are not afraid that, their kids' lives will be fucked up when they are not able to realize their dreams. And, instead are like, hey, I couldn't become a super successful ice skater, so I'm going to make my kid that, and my kid actually doesn't want that, and I'm going to fuck up their life that way. I mean, we've seen that also in other anime before. And I would at least like the show to address that part of the sport, right?
Yeah.
And by God, anime, please don't insert an icky romance plot into this with those two characters. I'm fucking warning you. I will drop you like a hot potato the moment I smell any stench of that ilk on your frames. Just putting that out there. Like, there's nothing of that in here yet, but,
I hope that's not the case.
Yes, right now I have no reason to suspect it, but I'm just saying it regardless because there have been some shows in the past where that suddenly sneaks its way into the story and into the relationship between the two main characters, and you're like, not okay. So we'll see where this goes. I haven't heard anything bad about this yet, but I also don't know if it's an original anime or based on a manga or anything. So we'll see where this goes. But for now, I'm very interested. I think this looks good. The characters are great, and I want to see where this goes. It's going to be my sports anime fix for this season, probably. And that's why it's still a maybe, unless it goes into a direction where I'm like, yeah, right? So we'll see. I'm weary, but for now it looks like it's gonna be just a uplifting, good vibes underdog sports story. So let's hope it stays that way, and it will pretty quickly become a keeper. All right, John, what is next? Do you have another maybe, or do you want to move into the keepers?
I have one more maybe.
All right, let's do that then.
It's Sakamoto Days.
Oh, that's one of my keepers, so we're swiftly moving into those.
Oh, well, perfect then. Taro Sakamoto was once a legendary hitman, considered the greatest of all time. Bad guys feared him. Assassins revered him. Some nice rhymey copy, Viz. But then one day he quit, got married, and had a baby. He's now living the quiet life as the owner of a neighborhood store. But how long can Sakamoto enjoy his days retirement before his past catches up to him?
You forgot one part of that description, and he got fat.
Yes.
The anime is very, very intent on emphasizing that. I had to laugh so much when they cut the summary, especially when he looks at his future wife the first time and just loses his fucking shit. It's like actual love at first sight. And then just has his shirt retired, this pink shirt on, and throws his guns away. And all the mafia goons in the background are like, what the fuck? Really good.
But now that he's turned his back on the mob.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, you don't exit the Assassin's World. The Assassin's World exits you. So, of course, someone is being sent to assassinate him, take him out. But
if he can.
If he can. And also, the first guy they send, for some reason, is Sakamoto's biggest fanboy. Who's like Shin the psychic, who I don't know if he can really read minds or if it's just like he can read body language very well and from that interprets what the people might be thinking. I'm not quite sure if the show is actually going the supernatural route yet. Like they have some, when he looks at people, we hear their inner monologues, but I don't know if those are their actual inner monologues or if he's just like assuming that's what they're saying because of, their body language. So I don't know if they'll give an explanation for that or if they'll be like just like, no, he's an Esper. That's it. But yeah, like the whatever organization that Sakamoto worked for, they sent him, or one group of that sends him, and he's like, he's so excited to meet his idol again.
Yeah, meet your heroes. Maybe do though. I
mean, in this case, do, because like the moment in the car where he starts squeeing because he realized that Sakamoto still got it. He still got the juice. He's so fucking excited.
He can still do it. Yes.
He's the best. He's so awesome. And yeah, well, then, they have a fight in the ma and pa shop that Sakamoto now owns. And you will be surprised how many everyday grocery items one can use as weapons if they have the capable hands.
Anything is a weapon if you put your mind to it.
Yes, that this show proves it. Pretty awesome. And yeah, Shin decides that he doesn't want to kill Sakamoto, even if he could. Like he experiences a part of his home life, and he's like, I don't want to take that away from my idol, like these happy moments. Like, he deserves that. Like, fuck it. I'd rather kill myself here in front of you guys than take another step at him. And they're like, yeah, all right. But Sakamoto saves...
go ahead, do it. We're going to kill Sakamoto anyway.
Yeah, and sadly, he read that in their minds, I guess, or he interpreted it, I don't know. But is almost killed regardless, and Sakamoto, who apparently has a giant armory hidden in his convenience store.
All I can think of is that one scene from The Matrix. I need guns.
Yes, guns everywhere. Even though he didn't bring his biggest guns, he just brought a stunner and a knife, I guess, and yeah. But yes, and he saves Shin and then offers Shin a job as a clerk in his store. And yes, I guess this is gonna be what the episode form of the show. Like, there's gonna be new hitmen coming, and they have to find a way to fend the hitman off. I don't assume he will hire all of them. So they probably have to kill some of them. The show is surprisingly violent in parts. Like, the beginning moments where we see, like, Sakamoto in his heyday was really, whoa.
Yeah.
It was more violent than Übel Blatt, actually. So I was like, okay.
But Sakamoto's wife tells him, you can't go back into the business because if you kill someone, I'm going to leave you. And he's like, yeah. No. The
pressure is on. So, yeah. And it doesn't feel like he necessarily wants to. Like, he seems to be content where he is. It's hard to garner a bit because Sakamoto is not a man of many words. Like, we hear, like, there's a few spoken lines and some, inner monologue stuff when Shin reads his mind, ostensibly. But mostly he gestures.
Yeah.
And that's that. So I wonder if that changes in the future. But yeah, I think this is based on a hit manga thing from Shonen Jump. I don't know if it was a gag manga or if it turns into mainly an action manga or something. From the setup, it feels like it's gonna be like a gag manga thing where we have funny new hitman encounter, funny quote unquote, each episode, and there are already a bunch of weird side characters introduced, like that weird kid that hangs around at the store all the time, weird little freak, and then all the people in the town who rely on Sakamoto because apparently of course, that's the guy he is. He can do anything, so they ask him for anything. And that's very fun. Yuki Hayashi is on the soundtrack, I believe. At least it sounded like that, definitely. So, yeah, good. That even created a moment of dissonance for me in the beginning, where it's like this really triumphant My Hero Academia Haikyuu music, and then you have Sakamoto just fucking blasting through people, killing them left and right, and I felt like that was in need of maybe a bit of a darker piece, but that sounded so heroic. It was like, Hayashi, maybe. I guess he's the hero of the story, but still, what he was doing wasn't necessarily heroic. But,
but he's so cool, though.
He is. That's true. But yeah, good music, of course, because Yuko Hayashi is the shit. So, yeah, it's a fun show. It's a super fun show. And even though it's airing on Netflix, apparently it's aired weekly, right?
Yeah, so there's something weird about that. Because they showed the first 2 episodes on Japanese Netflix. But I don't know how it is in Europe, but in the US, it's behind by an episode. Because they only showed 1 episode last week and then they put up the second one this week. Boy, it sure is a good thing I have unnamed VPN service to go watch the new episodes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
maybe they'll catch up. Maybe they'll do a double final episode then. In America.
I don't know, because the 3rd episode is up right now as we're speaking. It is up on Japanese Netflix, but on the American one, it's still 1 and 2.
Yeah, I saw that. So, and I've watched the 2nd episode yet, but maybe that is because of the dub. I don't know.
I wonder about that.
Seems like a too short turnaround, though. I would assume that at least half the season is finished at this point. So I don't know. But yeah, that's weird. But I kind of like that it's on a week by week basis and not like dropped to binge. We both prefer the weekly model. So it's nice that Netflix is apparently doing that for some anime anyway. They have been doing for a while, at least over here in Europe, I think.
I can confirm I'm looking at it now using unnamed VPN. The dub is available on Japanese Netflix.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's a choice that they are making, apparently.
Very weird. This seems strange, but yeah, let them do whatever they want, I guess. As long as we get the episodes eventually and have a fun time with it, as I did with the first episode, and apparently you did as well. Yes. Like I said, for me, it's already a keeper. I was looking forward to this for a while because I heard a lot about the manga in advance, and then I was like, oh yeah, this concept sounds super fun, and this seems like it could have some potential in terms of gags and fun developments and everything. And yeah, looks good also.
Yes, it looks great. So, I'm just not 100% certain yet, but it is a keeper. It is a maybe bordering heavily on being a keeper. So,
all right. Then what is your first actual keeper? Because
well, from current season, I don't really have one. Like, I'm going to be we mentioned BEASTARS earlier, which I know you're probably going to talk more about in a second.
Yes.
But Dragon Ball Daima is pretty much it, and that's also continuing. So yes, I don't really have a lot to contribute this time around.
Well, and for me, the other also ran thing is Dr. Stone Season 4. Which is starting to tackle the final arc. I don't know if it will finish that in one core. But yeah, they're going to space, which seemed to be the logical endpoint for this story in terms of about science advancing at rapid speed. Like in season 3, they were starting to sail the ocean. So of course in season 4 they are now already traveling to the moon. But yeah, I'm interested to watch it. The problem is I haven't watched season 3 yet. Only watched the special that was bridging season 2 and season 3. I think the first episode of season 3, but not past that, because I was like, hey, I'm gonna finish that, and since you're not watching it, I don't feel like doing another Quick and the Dead review of this before this show is finished. So that's what I'm gonna do. Whenever this is finished, like I don't know if it will wrap up with season 4, or maybe it will get another core in season 4, or maybe get to season 5. But whenever that show is finished, I'll definitely review it. But that might still be off a while. Maybe it's next season, maybe it's the season after that or after that. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to finishing up the story because I really liked Dr. Stone season 1 and 2, and I'm looking forward to what the solution, the reveal of the mystery is, who is responsible for everyone turning to stone and everything. And apparently the solution to that mystery lies on the moon. So we'll see. Interesting. But yeah, then the last keeper, and we already talked about this a bit, or mentioned it at least, is BEASTARS, the final season, which technically is still a fall show because it dropped in late December, but it's also not finished. Like John said, it's going to get another core. I don't know when that is dropping. Have they announced that yet? Is it going to come in summer or in spring?
Let me do a quick search. I'm looking at, there's no date, so.
Well, all right. But 12 episodes are out. I think it's 12. And then we're probably going to get another 12 to wrap up this final season. And we're going to review this once the final season is completely finished. We're not going to do an interim review of this. So we have more to talk about when we review it. But yeah, it's picking up where the last season ended. The current B-Star is coming after Legoshi because Legoshi ate the leg of Lewis to get enough, power to stop the killer, whose name I'm not mentioning intentionally because some people have not probably watched B-Star season 1 and 2 yet. Please watch B-Star season 1 and 2. And so now he has the top B-star coming after him, apparently, because he's like, well, that's a sin that can't be tolerated, even if it was consensual, which it was. And Legoshi is also fighting withdrawal symptoms from eating meat, like going cold turkey sends him on a couple of bad trips, and they're gonna last. They're probably gonna have another 3 full moons in front of him, even with medication. And he's always like rolling around on the bed and in pain and everything, and trying to fight the urge to eat, to consume more meat and everything. Problem is, his next door neighbor, now where he's living now, is an herbivore. So you can imagine how that goes by the end of the first episode. And so a lot of shit happening. And on the other side of things, we have apparently a new killer here who's doing something in the underground section. At least we see someone get killed, and apparently it's not a carnivore this time. We see what that's all about. We have someone taking over from Louis of the Shishigami group, of the Lion Yakuza guys, taking the lead, and boy, does he seem to be a piece of work. Oof. And yeah, there's a lot of gears moving in this first episode. Like, there are a lot of things being put into place. I'm really interested to see where all of this goes. Like, what's gonna happen also to Louis, what's happening to Haru. Like, there's a bunch of things already shown here, and a couple of interesting new characters introduced. Like, some new glimpses at what life now is gonna be like after the big blow up at the end of second season, because of course that would leave lasting effect on school life in general. For example, there's now strict segregation between herbivores and carnivores in the school, starting with the next school year. So no mixing anymore of classes and everything, because it was deemed too dangerous by the school board. And yeah, Haru, poor naive Haru. She's like, hey, now that I'm in college years, I don't have to deal with all the bullying from high school and everything anymore. And like,
oh, you sweet summer child.
Yeah, she thought she had already experienced the worst in prejudice, xenophobia, and bullying the world had to offer in school. Welcome to the world of adults, sweetheart, where everything is exponentially worse, as her rabbit friend who dates a lion experiences firsthand. But yeah, everything I've seen in the first episode is super interesting. As usual, it's animated super well by Orange, and I'm just super hyped to finish up this story. I love BEASTARS Season 1. I loved BEASTARS Season 2. I think it's a standout series. It's super entertaining. It looks good. It sounds incredible. It has incredible soundtrack. And the characters are amazing. So I'm really, really, really interested to see how this one wraps up. I hope it's going to be a satisfying end. Won't leave me wanting. We'll see. But yeah, John, I assume once you pick it up, you will also be enthralled again. And I think we hope that Netflix will drop the second part of this season rather sooner than later.
Yeah, I just gotta get around to it. You know how it is.
Yes, it's always like it's always more demanding if there's already like 12 episodes that you have in front of you, except of just one. So
it was like that with Stone Ocean. It took me a while to get around to watching the whole thing.
I mean, I can kick you occasionally. So be like, at least verbally over the internet, and be like, John, have you watched BEASTARS yet? And I'm going to annoy you so much that you're just going to quit the series.
That's fair.
I will do it. Shut up. Yeah. No, don't worry about it. Take your time. I mean, it's gonna probably be a while until part 2 drops. So,
I mean, you said probably summer, which honestly sounds plausible. So,
there's a lot of shit already announced to drop in summer for me, though. Like that's gonna be a big season where I watch a lot of shit. So I wouldn't mind it being in spring or in fall either. So we'll see.
I mean, when I was looking ahead to summer, it was a lot of this year's looking kind of dry for me, so...
Yeah, not for me. Kaiju number 8 is coming back. There was something else that came back that I know I'm forgetting, but there that I'm really excited for. Let's see. Maybe it was the second part of. I don't know. It was something. I will look it up again. But I remember there being a lot more in summer for me than in spring. And in winter.
I mean, it looks like spring had, or was it that? There's some stuff in spring.
Spring has Fire Force. Spring has Fire Force.
Spring definitely has Fire Force, which, yes, 100% yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, more Arthur, please.
Which
Always
is also
Arthur.
a 2-core show.
That makes sense. I mean, this is also going to be its final season, right? I think so.
That I wasn't too sure about, but there's also another show returning in summer that we discussed briefly.
Don't give that away.
And it will come back to bear soon enough.
Yes, and I will lavish in making fun of you for doing that to yourself again. But that's enough of a tease. That's it for our sneak peek for winter 2025. And we will move over to our not only, but one of 2 reviews this season, because for us it's going to be a slim review season. But yeah, we're gonna get to the first one of those 2 in just a moment.
Right, so Bionic Commando was a cool game.
Sure was.
You had, a couple sequels, had a real weird remake.
I like that remake. I mean, I had fun with it. A lot of people didn't like it, but I was like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, the swinging was not as good as in some of the Spider-Man games, but it was still an interesting take. And yes, the story was very, very out there.
Yeah, that's the part I'm talking about. But yes, what could be referring to? But mechanical arms, Mecha-Ude. Wow, what a segue!
Amazing, flawless.
I'm so good at my job. Hikaru Amatsuga's days of tranquility come to a sudden end when he rescues Alma, a mechanical arm crying for help. Alma fuses with his jacket, introducing Hikaru to the world of mechanical arms, mysterious, sentient weapons that normally become part of their users' bodies. Forced to flee for his life, Hikaru is eventually captured by Aki Murasame, a twin mechanical arms user working for ARMS, an organization that protects the machines against unethical treatment. The Kagami Group, a nefarious organization that treats mechanical arms as mere tools, seeks to recover Alma. Hikaru is deemed by a failure by ARMS for his lack of natural predisposition to be a mechanical arm wielder, so Aki is assigned to be his bodyguard. But Aki is defeated by Jun Kagami, who cruelly tears out her 2 mechanical limbs, condemning the girl to a slow death. Unwilling to abandon Aki to her grim fate, Hikaru miraculously awakens his power and neutralizes Kagami. Now a full member of ARMS, Hikaru is determined to unravel the truth about mechanical arms and protect his newfound friends and allies. Thank you to MAL Rewrite for that partially accurate summary, because I don't feel like Hikaru ever really becomes a full member of ARMS, but, sure.
Not really.
No.
Like, ARMS is such a nothing group in this, really. I mean...
all I can ever think of is the stupid Nintendo game.
The boxing game, you mean?
Yeah, the game was called just ARMS at retail.
Oh, right. It wasn't Project ARMS. You're right. What I had to think of was Azure Striker Gunvolt, and this being Quill or Feathers, and the character designs were screaming Gunvolt at me with all the neon shit and everything. Also, like everything, I don't know, that worked really. And then the main guy of ARMS. That fucking, like, immediately vibes of the bad guy, kinda. I mean, who is, in the beginning, not a bad guy from Gunvolt. Spoilers for Gunvolt. And I was like, well, that guy gives me He looks like Char with his mask, but he also is giving me Asimov vibes. So it's not Char Aznable, it's Char Asimov, motherfucker. And
You, you know what's funny? I didn't really think of this until now that you've said it, but I mean, Aki's arms, Sinus and Dex, are voiced by Kaito Ishikawa, who was the voice of Gunvolt. So
overlap.
we have our tenuous at best link there.
I wonder. Maybe Integrates will one day make a Mecha-Ude game.
I mean,
I wouldn't mind
cool.
that. There is some potential there. So, yes. Thank you for the basic setup, John. First of all, want to quickly talk about the history of this show, because this didn't start out as as your standard anime project usually does. It's not based on a manga, as far as I know. It's not, an original anime cocked up by a production company or whatever. It is a Kickstarter. Or was it?
The Kickstarter. I'm trying to find a date when it started, but it started as like basically a one-off. Working with this lady, Sae Okamoto, who wanted to get this off the ground. And she's done some smaller directorial work in anime. But she wanted to make this thing come to life and went to Kickstarter with a small goal of $25,000. And $67,000 later, we got a one-episode OVA that, definitely was the start of something, that's for sure, because I think was it Pony Canyon came in at some point later and was like, hey, we think this is pretty cool. What if we gave you the funding to make it be, a 12-episode show? So, going off of that one episode that released in, when did it release? It was 2018. So, and I think it was Raina Scully at the time also released like a dubbed version of the episode at the same time. So you could watch it in English or Japanese if you want. Like, you can go find it on YouTube for free right now. And yeah, that's kind of like the long and short of it, but it's pretty cool to see this sort of started off this little passion project. And, it's definitely still a passion project at the end of the day, but it really came a long way, and we get to see what it is now. It was headed up by Tri-F Studio, and you can tell there's some rough edges to the show, but I honestly feel like that gives it a little bit of its charm. So
yes, absolutely. I feel like there are some moments where the faces look a bit rough and something like that, but nothing too severe. It more goes into in making them more expressive in a way, and I just got, aside from the Gunvolt vibes, I also got severe trigger vibes from this, where it's like, hey, this is so hyper edited, and it's so fast paced, and it's partially like in terms of how the jokes are played and everything. It's sometimes very quick-witted, and it's so cartoony in certain parts. The color palette is as well. Like, you got very bright colors, like it's a lot of neon coloring in there as well. You get some wild color palettes on the hairs of people, and everything is really out there in terms of character design and color design. And all of that screamed Trigger at me. Like, it might not have the pedigree that Trigger has, but it definitely was going for a similar vibe, and I appreciated that, even though it was not always on model or completely like high quality all the time. And considering what it put on screen, especially in the fighting scenes, I mean, Tribe Studio has done some other stuff, I guess. I don't know if they did that before Mecha-Ude or if those are their next projects. But I feel like if this is one of their first outings, I mean, good passion projects, you always put your best into it. So maybe this is the best they can deliver for now. But they could also grow from here and get even better. And I think for a first outing, this looks really good. Had no complaints there. Yes, in some parts it was noticeable that it wasn't like always completely perfectly pulled off and everything, but it never stuck out to me to a degree where it's like, this bothers me. And it seems it was the same for you. So yes, I like that a lot, and I like, of course, I always like when they're going like these kind of stories where it's like, hey, we have this one-off passion project, and then we are given the funds to make a bigger, more realized version of this, and I love that. I think that's cool. I hope they get to do more of this. We'll see. We'll talk about this after we're done with the review, if there's more to become, maybe, but. Yes, so from the basic setup, this is a pretty standard science fiction action show. Or science fantasy, I guess.
Yeah.
You got your typical high school guy, although he's a bit older than maybe your usual protagonist. I mean, I guess he's a third year, right? Because at the end of the show, spoilers, we see some hints that was their last year in high school. And so some of that feels like it's older than some of the maybe other shonen styled action shows we've seen in certain parts. So that was interesting, even though the character designs feel younger than the characters themselves probably are, but it works regardless. And Hikaru is set up as this guy, our main character, who seems to have a good heart, but has a problem with taking the first step in all matters of life. We see him in the train where he's sitting there, and there's this pregnant woman, and he realizes, but he's too, I don't know, maybe introverted or too socially awkward to offer her his seat, and he hears people around him talking, and it seems to him like they're talking about him, and that makes him even more hesitant because they talk about someone being a do-gooder or whatever and embarrassing himself. So he's definitely got social anxieties. And that kind of immediately got me on board with his character, I gotta say, because I was like, oh, this is super relatable to me. It was like, it took a long time for me personally to be comfortable asking unfamiliar people stuff in general, or even talking to them, like where something in the grocery store is, or taking the initiative on some matters in a public space. And despite what I might sound like on the mic, I hope, I'm still very socially awkward in a lot of situations. So this character immediately was like, oh, I get this guy. I get what his issue is. It sounds like, John, you have had these issues as well and can relate.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it is for a lot of people, I think, that age. So
yeah, and I mean, sometimes it never goes fully away due to reasons. It got better for me, but for him, he's still in that phase where it's like, I'm not that guy. I don't do well in these situations, and I kind of need someone to help me get over that hump, to find my way, to find the courage to take some first steps, to speak out, to take a stance, and so on. Cue alien robot arm, who calls out to him for some reason one night, and then appears in front of him and fuses with his hoodie, which was really interesting because, as we later learn, these mechanical limbs, or Mecha-Ude as they're called in the show, usually fuse, if they fuse at all, there are two types, kind of get into that, fuse with the body of the host, like one part of their body, either with the leg, with the arm, with the chest, with the back, whatever, with the ass probably. I don't know if they're dick Mecha-Ude, but I also don't want to know. But yes, that can happen.
This went to a place.
This went to a place quickly. But yes, so for him, it was different because due to the weird situation of their encounter, his new best friend, mechanical hand, Alma, fused not with his body, but with his hoodie. And that kind of leads to different situations from other Mecha-Ude, because those can roam around freely. They're kind of always connected to their hosts, and when they're and if they're not always showing, they always have to be summoned in a way, I guess. At least most of them. Maybe not the one, the guy of Wonder. I don't know if they can come out by themselves all the time.
It seemed like that for the ones that were subjugated by the Kagami group. The ones that are with arms and just, naturally are on their own just seem to be like, oh, we can just,
they can do what they want.
You just do this. We can blah, 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 blah.
At least Kagemaru definitely can.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit about in what situation Warner is in. It's like, no, we have to help these people. Anyway, but yes, so for Hikaru it's different because he's part of his clothing, and people comment on that when, like, Aki is really flustered by that when she meets it. It was like, what do you mean he fused with your hoodie? That never happens. What how can that... She's like completely taken aback. And it's also funny because other than, all the other characters showing up with the Mecha-Ude connected to their bodies, like Alma can at least crawl around a bit on his own, not too far because he gets, at least in the beginning, too far away from Hikaru. He loses his power and can't move anymore. But yeah, Hikaru is at first hesitant, but then quickly they become friends. He helps him, and then he helps Aki. And then Aki, who is with arms and has her own story, she's trying to find a guy with a worm type Mecha-Ude because she wants to take revenge on him because apparently he killed her family, her parents and her little sister. Then those two hang around together, also school. Hikaru really doesn't want that because Aki is a really intense girl. Like, she's very intent on being his bodyguard, even though she's not particularly good at it in certain parts. Like, she often loses track of him, I guess, when he is very... When they're already in a battle situation, Hikaru tends to sneak away and she doesn't notice because she's so wrapped up in the fight, which is understandable. But outside of that, she's just constantly his shadow, and she
smashes through his window on the regular.
Window, yes, instead of taking the door, and she's just running after him and everything. She can be easily distracted with food because that's definitely where her passion lies. She's a very hungry lady. With a big appetite. It's like, wow. But yeah, so they hang around a lot and, have their individual stories. And then later on, someone else gets added to the main trio of characters, I would say, who is the younger brother of the president of Kagami Corps, who are is like this bad company who uses Mecha-Ude only as tools and subjugates them and robs them of their sentience and everything, like basically shackles them with these special shackle gadgets that make them just turn into basic knives or whatever. Not basic. Like, Mecha-Ude can transform even when they're in shackled form, like into a bunch of things, into Gatling guns, into knives, into swords, whatever. Like, there are a bunch of different types that can turn into different things. We have a sentient one down the road that can turn into a big old motorcycle. So Mecha-Ude are versatile. Unless you have Alma, who is basically always turning into a bigger fist. the more the series progresses.
Sometimes you just need big fist.
Yeah, sometimes just throw a big fist. And that little brother of the Kagami president is sickly, and he wants Alma because Alma is a special Mecha-Ude. Everyone calls it the trigger arm. Trigger, ha! There we go. And and he wants to take that for his own because he assumes that with that that will cure his illness, which is, I think, he can't. I don't know if he can. There are a couple of characters maybe who can't do this. To fuse or to fuel Mecha-Ude, you have to use these things that are naturally part of your body. Arbitrarium, or what is it called?
Yeah, that's it.
It's along the lines of unobtainium from Avatar.
I also call it midichlorians.
Yes. So it's the same thing. So human bodies generate that, and I think Mecha-Ude use that as sustenance or whatever, or it's a symbiotic relationship. I'm not sure. But I think June, the third character, can't produce that or whatever, and he needs Mecha-Ude, special Mecha-Ude to heal him. And Alma is supposed to be that. So he goes after him with a prototype thing and fights Hikaru and everything. But they then become frenemies as these things goes, rivals, right? Where it's like he only sticks around because he wants to fight him and he wants to be who beats Hikaru, but he helps him. He ends up helping him out all the time because of it. And yeah, it's that old dynamic, but it's fun. And yeah, so that's the main trio, and from there a bunch of other characters are introduced, and the show sets up a couple of mysteries, like what is the goal of Kagami Group, what exactly does ARMS wanting to liberate the Mecha-Ude entail, what happened to Aki's family, why does Alma lose his memory, what exactly are the Mecha-Ude when it comes down to that. So yeah, a bunch of things that are happening at the same time, and all these individual stories and character stories progress. Then we have a bunch of side characters thrown into the mix. One of the standout ones, and I alluded to that particular character in the intro narration, is Meru, who
she is for sure the audience surrogate, because she just wants to marry everyone off to everyone else.
Well, not everyone, I would say. She's particularly obsessed with our three main characters. First, when Aki rolls into the school to be the bodyguard to Hikaru, and immediately asserts dominance by putting her desk directly next to him. Meru is immediately smitten. Is like, oh, this is a rom-com, high school rom-com happening, and I'm gonna make that happen. I'm gonna support both of these. I want that to happen. Every time something happens where these two interact, she completely misunderstands the situation and and assumes this is a new romantic kerfuffle.
You mean it's not?
It's in her head, it will always be. And then later June gets into the mix and she gets her bisexual flavor mixed into that, and she's even happier. And yes, so
suddenly it's a BL story. Oh,
yes. Yeah, there's this love triangle, and she couldn't be happier. So she is really fun. And then we got a couple of fun side characters in there. Not all of them given a lot of screen time, really, which is one of the problems of the show, I would say. It's also one of its benefits. So this show has one of the most intense breakneck pacing.
It hits the ground and it just goes.
Yes, it goes. It never lets up. There's no downtime in this show. Even in the moments where you think, well, this is a downtime moment. No. They're just going to throw a new character in there, or a fun beat, or some breakneck edited jokes, like slapstick jokes or visual gags. It's incredible. It's intense. And might come across as too hectic for some people. I kind of liked it a lot. It felt super breezy. It felt like a super quick watch because there was so much shit happening in every episode. You know, it's also pretty funny. The stuff with Meru constantly trying to create her own visual dating novel experience is funny. The dynamic between Hikaru, Aki, and Jun is fun and quick-witted. There's a lot of fun banter between the three. The exchanges between Alma and Hikaru also have a nice buddy comedy feel to it, and it's good vibes. It's a lot of fun interactions in this show, and then you have the amazing battle scenes. There are a lot of fights in this show. They are not all on the level of super Sakuga, I don't know, Mappa stuff or UFO table stuff or something like that. Far from it, but they're so well and quickly edited, maybe sometimes a bit too quickly for, to always know where you are in any given moment. The show demands of you, a lot of you in terms of keeping up with the action. But if you're attuned to that, I had a lot of fun with the action scenes because there was so much cool shit happening in terms of shot composition, in terms of, you had a lot of cool tracking shots, a lot of moments where there were these nice, not necessarily 360 moments, but where the camera was completely panning around someone, but definitely moments where you had this big area and then the camera was moving around a bit, like from a helicopter shot, and you would get a bigger grasp on where this set piece was happening and everything. And it looked really cool. I did not expect that in a show from kind of first timer studio like this. Like there was a lot of vision that I felt from this show when it came to the visuals and the composition of the fight scenes. John, what did you think about the fights in this?
Yeah, they were definitely, to say the least of it, engaging. So, it might have been a lot to sort of take in some parts of it, but they always give you something to sort of look at and be like, oh, this is, at least very well, there's at least a vision to these fights, and you can see them very clearly show that to you in these scenes. So I think that was, definitely a strong part of it. But going back to what you said about the plot moving super fast earlier, I think that might be a reason why some people may turn away from this. Because, yeah, it goes and it goes and it goes. So, there's a lot to sort of try and take in when it I don't want to say when it starts, because it doesn't ever stop.
Yeah, that's true. But it feel like it's not relying too much on exposition dumps at the same time, which you would expect from a show that is like trying to cram a lot of story in such a short runtime, and is like going for a breakneck pacing or whatever, where there's so much happening in that show in terms of twists, turns, and everything, and characters introduced, that would be enough for at least a 2-core show. In terms of what you could do with that and with the characters that were in there, definitely at least a 2-core show, if not 2 seasons, full seasons of this would have been possible if the show decided to be like, no, now I've introduced these characters and we're just gonna have a couple of fights for the next, 10 episode Monster of the Week style, right? And we have some shenanigans at the school and whatever. But the show doesn't want to do that. Instead, it's like, no, first we're gonna have the introduction of our main characters, Hikaru and Aki. They're gonna get together. We have the initial, with the initial contact with Alma and everything, and then we have a short arc that relates to Jun being introduced. Then we get a short arc that relates to Aki's background story with her sister. Then we get into more of the Mecha-Ude stuff in general, the Kagami stuff. We get some background story on one of the other characters. We then already move into the final part of the show, which is like the last third of this is basically one continuous set piece fight scene in a way that just switches bad guys or main antagonists over and over again, but it doesn't feel like it's stalling or everything. It just always feels like it's moving along, because we also always get like snippets of history of the Mecha-Ude and of some of the characters in there that we didn't know before, some of which we definitely can guess. Like one of the things that was played like a big surprise in the show was like no surprise to me at all. And I immediately telegraphed that to John when I started rewatching the show, because I stopped after the first episode, and then I binged it before our review, and I was like, I just start this up again. I just want to let you know, even if I eat my words, I know what this character is about.
And all I said was, I guess you should keep watching.
Watching, yes.
But yeah,
I was half right, I guess.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, that I do appreciate that things did keep going the way they did, because in anime, too many times, like the big pivotal plot point that should have been revealed way sooner, it's usually like the last 2 episodes. At least in this, we had things that were going, so it felt natural in its progression.
Yes.
Even though this show did move fast, I would like to refer you back to the Kickstarter OVA, which was like a speed run of the first 3 episodes. So seeing it in the show proper, getting a little bit more of its proper due time given to it, was like, okay, so we sort of got a taste of what they wanted to do, and this is the fuller, more expanded version of it, as much as it can be. So it was nice to see, because I made sure, I forget what order I watched. I think I watched the first episode, then I went back and watched the OVA. And then after watching like the second or third episode, I was like, oh, okay. So that was just a primer for, you can expect this.
Yes. Yes, and that makes sense in terms of what the content of those first 3 episodes is. And that works as a nice, little thing, and then you can heavily expand on that, and the show does that. Like, goes into the lore, goes into some of the characters. Talking about another thing that is a bit of a downside to the quick pacing is that we have a couple of potentially interesting characters in there who just are like in the show for like 2 seconds. Like, we have this character Tani and Karex, like a guy with his frog-ish Mecha-Ude, who get taken out, I think, in episode 3 or something, like very quickly. And the problem is the show places as this tragic, harrowing thing, and we have like spent time with these characters for like 1 minute of the show.
Yeah,
like they're team members of Aki. They're from ARMS and everything, and then they get taken out by the worm guy, the worm Mecha-Ude user, and it's like, oh my god, no, Tani, and like, who? Oh, that guy. Yes, we just spent 1 minute at the beginning of the episode with him, but the show is like, oh god, this is the horrors, and I'm like, okay, and these are the moments when I'm like, okay, if the show went on for not 12 episodes but 24. And we had a bit more time to spend with Tani to get to know him and his interaction with Karex and everything. And he has this moment in the beginning of the show where he helps out of the episode where he helps out Hikaru, and you immediately, oh, he's a good guy, he's from ARMS and everything. But then immediately he gets taken out of the show, and it's like, okay, you could have had more impact if you had a longer running show and they go on to get some missions together, do some stuff, free some Mecha-Ude from Kagami Industries, right? Because that holds the potential of, making some interesting or having some interesting Monster of the Week episodes. We get our ARMS guys fighting the Kagami guys. All of them have special shackled Mecha-Ude, and then they fight them and they free those. You could have gotten some episode out of them. Then you put some of the cool school stuff in there, and enough comedy bits in there, and it wouldn't feel like it was wasting its time too much if you put enough character stuff in there. And then if you reintroduce the Aki storyline and the Mecha-Ude worm Mecha-Ude user, and then he kills, quote unquote, off Tani, that would have been a heavy moment. Like, that would have been like, holy shit, now things are getting really dire after all this kind of lighthearted, hey, we're having successful missions and stuff like that. So that was one of the moments where it's like, there was maybe a better way to do this, but also not in this runtime and with the story they wanted to tell. So it was like they're trying to focus on a couple of characters that are important. There's also one from Kagami Industries who's like featured in the OP. Like, he is a sword Mecha-Ude user, and he seems to be like, oh, he's a strong opponent. And then he has a fight with Aki like in the second half of the show in one episode for like 2 minutes, and it never appears again. And it's like, that could have been the antagonist for like 1 or 2 full episodes, I guess. And the way this guy behaves is fun and everything, because he's like, hey, I'm a middle-aged man, I kind of don't want to do that, but I also can't lose my job, because what else am I going to do, right? So that could have been fun, but it's like blink and you miss it. So those were some of the few moments where it's like, okay, I would have liked the show to be longer, but it's not so problematic that it completely took me out of the show. And also, I feel like the time they instead spent on our main characters works. We get enough of screen time with Hikaru, his interaction with Alma and everything. We get enough screen time with Jun, enough with Aki. And that's enough for the show to work enough in the character department. I probably would have liked to get a bit more out of the bad guy. I get the motivation and everything, and where he's coming from, but it's like, there is an emotional component here that you set up in this show, and it doesn't really pay that off that well. I mean, there is something in the final confrontation that, again, tries to bring that up and tries to work with that and everything, but I feel like they could have emphasized that more to get more of an emotional response from me in regards to the motivation of the main villain specifically. I don't know how you felt about that.
Nah, yeah, you're right. Just that's a byproduct of going as fast as they did. So
yes. But again, those are nitpicks because the positive effect of it going so fast is you're never bored. Like this show is just 10 million miles a minute. It's just going from next plot beat to next plot beat to next character beat to next character beat. You're never bored. There's always something interesting new to see. There's a new cool fight scene, especially the fight scenes with Aki are cool. Like the way she uses Sinus and Dex and moves around in any given fighting area is cool. The fights of Alma and Hikaru are cool. Yes, Alma kind of basically only is just a big fist. But the funny part is in the beginning, Hikaru doesn't really have an active part in the fights yet because Alma just strings him along. Because just drags him around, being stuck to his hoodie and doing the fights for her because, because they are not fused correctly together in the beginning. There's, of course, a development in that regard, but in the beginning, Alma is still a separate entity. That means the usual stuff, the body enhancement stuff that comes with fusing with the Mecha-Ude is not happening to Hikaru yet. So it's fun. And that changes, of course. So the fights also change, and that's neat.
I think one of my favorite just stupid jokes later on was when there's a character from the Kagami group, a scientist on their side named Natora. He looks so similar to one of the scientists on Arm's side, Quen, that I think someone calls him Quen too, and it's like, shut up, that's stupid. It's so dumb, but I love it. It's like, because they put them next to each other, and it's like, he's just got different hair. Oh no, it's the same person.
The show
The
show comments on that. It's not like the show is unaware of that. It's like Quen says that. It's like, oh my god, why does he look like me? It's like, it's just so funny. Also, we have like a couple of different enemy factions. We have like the Expansion 3 section or whatever, who are some of the bad guys who work under Kagami. We have the White Ravens. And we see one of the White Ravens in the beginning, but all the rest of them are like introduced in the last episode, kind of do nothing and but they get text describing them and their Mecha-Ude, which no other character in the show got for their introduction. Like nobody gets this. And it's like, and even one of the characters says, oh, some weirdos appeared out of nowhere late in the game or whatever. Like the show is just poking fun at itself for that kind of thing. It's very
self-aware.
Yes, it's fun. Like it's super entertaining when you have that. Like I said, the humor in the show, the humor in the show in general, worked for me. And like I said, and let's not forget Alma being attached to that hoodie. What happens if Hikaru wants to wash that hoodie? Like, also that's a sturdy goddamn hoodie. If Alma was attached directly to Hikaru's back, the combat would make more sense in the beginning. But the way it was back then, like, Alma should always get torn out of the hoodie with any punch he throws. And at some moment that happens, but not in the beginning. Anime logic, I guess. You gotta love it. And also, in my opinion, missed opportunity for brand promotion. You don't want to get, that Uniqlo or some other clothing brands like, hey, our products can have alien robot arms attached to them in intense battle scenes, and that clothing still is intact, bitches. Like, that's something you put on a poster. I feel like the show was, in general, very marketable. Like, you could sell the Mecha-Ude, all of them, as toys very well, and their different transformations and everything, and then you have the clothing, this thing. I don't know if they did. I don't know how successful this show was in general, but I feel like looking at some of the concepts of the show, dollar signs were like appearing in my eyes or something like that. It was like, oh, well, there's money there.
I'm sure someone out there has plans to try and monetize the heck out of it, or merchandise the heck out of it.
But yeah, that's kind of the show. And the problem is, I don't know how much we can say about the plot without giving too much away, because it's all these little side plots that are kind of resolved after 1, 2, 3 episodes, depending on who they are about. But they always reveal something more about the story in the backgrounds, and giving that away is kind of taking the fun out of what little quote-unquote story there is in the show. There's enough in there, but it's like it's so quick and it's moving fast by so quickly that giving most of that away would take away from that as well. So I don't think we want to go into that. It's just a very quick-paced, fun show. Like we both said, it might turn some people off how fast it is, how quickly edited it is. Like the editing in this show is what gives it, among the story moving along so quickly, gives it this breakneck feeling, breakneck pace feeling. The scenes switch very quickly, not only in the fight scenes, but also in the gag comedy scenes, but also in the story scenes. There's a lot of cuts in this. None of them really feel out of place, but you notice that this is a very, very quick show because of the editing. So I didn't mind it because I thought the cuts didn't feel superfluous or anything. It just made the show feel that much quicker. And for some people who like their anime have a more mellow pace, this might be too much, even for an action show. I can't tell. Like I said, I liked it. John apparently liked it. So give it a try, I would say, because there's enough happening there. Nothing too out there. Like I said, you can, for most of the stuff that is happening, you can guess where the story is going. A lot of this is standard stuff, tropey stuff. But because it's so fast, they never dwell on it so long that it annoys you that you already know where it's going, because it arrives there just when you have had the thought. It's like, oh, we're already here. All right, okay. They're not trying to make this a mystery too long. They're already resolving it. That's good because I already knew what's probably going to happen. And then the way they resolve it is usually with a fun action scene or a fun comedy scene or both. And yeah, so that's cool. And yeah, so a bunch of lovable, funny characters. Some are a bit more annoying than others, I guess. They can maybe grate on you in some ways. If I can understand if people are maybe annoyed by Warner and Kagemaru because they're very loud characters, both of them.
Yeah.
But the show is fun to look at in the action scenes. Like I said, the color palette is great. I especially, going the fashion critic route, I especially like Tu's outfit. I think she has a really cool character design, like with the blue and yellow/orange stuff, like the high contrast thing. There's a lot of high contrast work in this show. It just looks cool. It looks cool, science fiction-y, neon, cyberpunk-y. Again, very triggery. A lot of that feels like we've seen it in Cyberpunk Edge Runners, maybe. Different character designs, of course, but in terms of color work and everything. So, yeah, it's a cool show. It's a cool looking show. It's a cool sounding show because soundtrack done by our boy Hiroyuki Sawano. Also delivered a banger of an OP with Vortex.
Oh, yeah.
Once again.
First time I saw that OP, I was just like, ooh.
There's also a nice music video of that on YouTube where we got a bit of, I don't know if that animation is somewhat related to this story because of a lot of that looks like it's from Mecha-Ude, but it's different character designs and stuff that doesn't happen in the show.
I mean, the studio might have just, put in the work for it themselves to help promote it. I don't know. I had trouble digging up that sort of thing.
Yeah, but definitely check that out if you watch the show, or if you don't watch the show. It's just a cool fucking song. One of the typical Sawano bangers. You know them. If you heard one of them, you know how they sound. The man has one shtick, and he goes back to that again. But I happen to love that particular shtick and that particular style, that particular pony. So he's just awesome. I just love his music, and this is another one of his great soundtracks in my opinion. It's just super fun to listen to. It emphasizes the action scenes perfectly. The emotional moments, too. Not only the action scenes. He is really good with the emotional keys as well. So,
I guess the show is also co-composed by Kota Yamamoto, who's done some other big stuff in the past, too. So, like a little bit of Attack on Titan, some Blue Exorcist here and there. So, they have also been around.
Cool. Yes, very good sounding show. Very good looking show, especially considering Tri-F hasn't done that much yet. And this starting out as a Kickstarter project and everything, just really, really cool little thing. And it's kind of self-contained. I mean, at the end, we have a teaser for what's going to happen, what could happen in a potential second season. Like, this definitely heavy teaser images. It's like, okay, this could happen next, and then this is where those characters would be, and so on. Definitely got potential preview. I don't know if we'll get an actual next season because I don't know how successful the show was. I would love to have another season of this.
I guess between the OVA and the series, they had a manga that ran from 2022 to 2024. So I don't know if this is all of the story they wanted to tell, or if there's more in the manga, or if they wanted, if there's, obviously, like you said, it did tease the possibility for something, but I guess time will tell.
How many volumes does the manga have?
10.
Volumes or chapters?
10 volumes.
Okay, then there's gotta be enough in there for another season. I don't think we've covered 10 volumes of manga with these 12 episodes. Although, again, considering the story went with such a breakneck pace, like if they cut stuff out, that was maybe in the manga. I didn't know that. I thought the manga was an adaptation of the anime we got and ran concurrently. Like they do that more often these days, where it's like they release an original anime and then they release at the same time a manga adaptation of this.
So yeah, I mean, it was 10 volumes, but it was only like 39 chapters, so it's not like
interesting,
super beefy.
Yeah, not a full-size Tankoman then. Yeah, sure. I mean, 39 chapters. Yeah, that could fit into 12 episodes. I don't know. We would probably have to look it up. But again, that doesn't mean even if we have covered everything of the manga with these first 12 episodes, that doesn't mean that they can continue it beyond that if the anime was successful enough. We'll see. It just, the teaser images felt like they want to tell more from this, more story from this universe.
Yeah, and that's entirely possible.
Yeah, I hope they get to do that. Even if it already exists in manga form or not, I hope they get to. Yeah, I hope they get to show us more of the mechanical arms world. That would be pretty damn awesome. John, where can people watch this show?
You can watch it on Crunchyroll. Looks like it might be available on other services internationally, depending on where you live, but is chiefly on CR. So
nice. And yeah, if you like action shows, if you can tolerate or even like very quick pacing, if you like good action scenes, fighting scenes, and a bit of wacky comedy at the side, because the show is super wacky at moments and very loud. If you can stomach all of that or even appreciate it, then I recommend you put this show into your armory. And that is a wrap on the 163rd episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in this podcast is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to virt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Find us where all the podcasts live, but also check out animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Please leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice if you can. Follow us on the socials or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut.
So long, everybody.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
Monsters, aliens, demons, ghosts.
And dicks.